main body paragraph than somebody who, like many of you, what you do when your main body paragraphs is you include like 3 different ideas, and no explanations, no examples, no topic sentences, and it's just like, I call it a shopping list main body paragraph. It's just a list of ideas. It's not actually a real paragraph. So now let's look at each of these elements, because once you understand how to write each of these elements, then you can put them together in a main body paragraph. So, topic sentence. This tells the reader what the paragraph is about. So, very much like your introduction, in your introduction, what an introduction does, why do we write an introduction? To help the reader. Why do we write a conclusion? To help the reader. Why do we write a topic sentence? To help the reader. Why are we helping the reader so much? Because the main purpose of writing, think of the main purpose of writing. Is the main purpose of writing to show how many big words you know? Is the main purpose of writing to show how many different grammar structures and tenses you know? Or is the main purpose of writing to clearly communicate with the reader? The more that you help the reader, the more that you clearly communicate with the reader, your better your writing becomes. Once you start to realize that, then you become a better writer. It's essential for task response. Task response is basically, did you answer the question? Task response is 25% of your total mark. Did you answer the question? A topic sentence helps you make it very clear to the examiner, I've understood the question and here is my answer. Here is how I'm answering the question. But it's also important for coherence and cohesion. So coherence and cohesion, another 25% of your total mark. Coherence, is it clear and easy to understand? Topic sentences make your main body paragraphs clear and easy to understand. Topic sentences should be short and simple. They do not need to be long, complex sentences. Just short and simple. Just this is what the paragraph is about. Many people worry about repetition here. This is a huge problem. A huge problem is that I don't know where this came from, and it's particularly prevalent in certain countries. I'm not going to name the countries because I don't want you to think that I'm picking on certain countries, but in certain countries, for some reason, it's a very, very popular idea amongst IELTS teachers, or so-called IELTS teachers, that repetition, you cannot repeat anything. So that means that you cannot repeat anything that is in your introduction in your main body paragraph. And you can't repeat anything that's in your introduction or your main body paragraph in your conclusion. Think about that for a minute. If you couldn't do that, then your introduction, your main body paragraph, and your conclusion would be 3 completely different things about 3 completely different topics, ideas, whatever. That would be a completely incoherent answer that lacked any sort of cohesion, and would mean that you get yourself in all sorts of trouble. Where does this come from? This comes from people teaching IELTS that don't really know what they're doing. They haven't put the time in to understand their craft. They haven't put the time in to understand what this is really about. And what they do is they see that you should avoid repetition in the IELTS essay. You lose marks for repeating words or phrases too many times, but not ideas. Ideas should be consistent throughout your whole essay. So the ideas in your introduction should be consistent with the ideas in your main body paragraphs, should be consistent with the ideas in your conclusion. If you do not believe me, go and look at a real academic journal. So an academic journal, go into, you can Google this on, and find it in any university, or go into any university library and look at quality academic journals produced by very high level academics. Look at the introduction, look at the main body paragraphs, and look at the conclusion. And you will see that the introduction says, this is what we're going to talk about. These are the ideas that we're going to talk about. And then they develop those same ideas in the main body. And then what they do is they summarize those same ideas in the conclusion. If you want to listen to your local IELTS teacher who is pretending to know what that they're pretending to know what they're doing for a living, you want to believe them rather than me. Every single examiner who works on my team, every high quality IELTS teacher I've ever spoken to. If you still believe that, stop the video and go back to your local IELTS teacher. If you want to get the scores that you need, keep watching. So how are you going to vary your language? So You shouldn't be using the same words and phrases over and over and over and over again, but you have to use the same ideas. And how you do that is you paraphrase again. Now, when I tell students this, they say, "Oh, but I can't paraphrase. I don't know how to paraphrase. I don't know how to vary my language." To get a 7 or above, which is what most of you want, you have to be able to paraphrase multiple times throughout the essay. Basically, if you're saying, "I can't do that," you're saying, "I'm not ready to get a 7 yet." That's basically what you're saying, because that is what is required. So, topic sentence. Let's look at my topic sentence. So, this in purple, this is the question in blue. In purple, this is what I wrote in my introduction. So all I do is just take this and then paraphrase it, say it in different words so that it means the same thing, and this is going to become my topic sentence. So this is my topic sentence in red. People rely on machines because of the latest developments in machine learning. Okay, so what I've done is I've just taken this and I put it into my own words. Again, you're going to have to do this. If you want a 7 or above, you have to learn how to paraphrase. You have to have a wide vocabulary. You have to, your grammar needs to be good enough. Does that mean that you'll never get there? No. I've helped, thousands of students get the scores that they need, but you need to change your mindset from, I just need to memorize lots of words and phrases and insert them into my essay, to, okay, I actually need to learn how to write properly. I actually need to learn how to use grammar and vocabulary properly. And when you change your mindset, then it becomes your progression. You will progress very, very quickly and get the scores that you need. So now we're going to look at explanations. So explanations are very, very important. And I'd say that out of all the elements in your essay, there's none that are unimportant. I don't want you to assume that some things are not important, but explanations, I would say, are the most important thing, because only good students can clearly explain what they mean. It's a skill that is very hard to acquire, and you probably are not even good at this in your native language. And it's not saying, I'm not criticizing you in any way, but in general, people are not very good at taking ideas that are in their head and clearly explaining them on paper. It's something that is quite difficult to do because it's something that many of you just never practice using. But it's something that is quite easy to learn. And we're going to talk about this briefly here. So never assume that the reader knows what your topic sentence means, or that they know how it answers the question. So bad communication, most bad communication, and this happens, I do this sometimes when I'm talking to my team. My team does this sometimes when they're communicating with me. And the reason why they might send me an email or a message and it's not very clear is they assume that I know what is in their head. They assume that I know exactly what they are thinking, and so they don't explain fully what the problem is or what they need help with, or what the context of the message. The reader can't ask you any follow-up questions, so you must explain everything. So think about the difference between speaking to someone and writing to someone. And I don't mean writing on WhatsApp or, sending text messages or even emails. Think about writing a book, or think about writing a academic journal. Think about writing an IELTS essay. The person reading that cannot ask you any follow-up questions. So the skill that you need to learn is to anticipate what they might be thinking and what they might need you to explain, and explaining that to them. Pretend you're explaining it to someone who knows nothing about the topic. A very common error that I see is students say to me, "Oh, well, the examiner knows about this," or "the examiner knows everything," or "the examiner is really intelligent." Okay, so you cannot assume that. That will lead to very poor communication, because you always will assume that the person knows what you're talking about. Explanations help you communicate clearly, and you need to explain it in a way that you assume that the person knows nothing about what you're talking about. One really good way of writing explanations is what my old English teacher, or my old science teacher as well, when we would be writing in school, my old English teacher and my old science teacher, he would walk around the classroom and he would look over your shoulder and they would say, "So what? So what?" So they would look at the sentence that you were writing and they would say, "So what? What does that mean? Give me more." In other words, they were saying, develop it, explain it. What does that actually mean? So a number of the successful students that I've had, when we do success stories with our students and we post them online, we post the videos online, a lot of them will say that when they were doing the test, they were imagining me saying, so what? So what? Develop your answer, explain what you mean. And that seems to really work. Another way of thinking about explanations is, how would you explain this to someone who knows nothing about the topic? So imagine you were explaining this to a 10-year-old boy. A 10-year-old boy who knows nothing about this. How would you explain that to them? Another way is, how would you say, or what would you say to an alien from a different planet? Somebody who knows nothing about our planet. Imagine aliens come down. How would you explain this thing to them? And that will help you develop your answer and fully explain what you mean. So this is my topic sentence. People rely on machines because of the latest developments in machine learning. Now, if I just write this, it's not very good, because I'm not explaining what it means, how it answers the question. So if someone was reading this, what questions would they be asking themselves? Or let's imagine that I am speaking to someone in a normal one-on-one conversation, and I say this, what would they be thinking, or what follow-up questions would they be asking me? Well, they'd probably say, what is machine learning? What developments? How have those developments allowed this to happen? Why? What's the result? What are the consequences? So you're not going to be writing about what is machine learning and then write about what is the developments and then write about this and then why and then result, and that's not how you're going to do it. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be preempting what the person reading this might be asking themselves, or might be asking you if they were to be able to speak to you. And these are not, who, what, why, where, how. When I say that to some students, what they do is they write, one sentence about who, then one sentence about what, and then one sentence. No, these are just to give you ideas so that you can think about how you would clearly explain this, and then you can write your explanations. So this is my explanation. So this is my topic sentence at the top here, and then this is my explanation. This is because big data and the fact that we are all connected via the internet means that algorithms can learn basic tasks. As a result, software does not need to be programmed, but can learn from millions of other devices around the world, for example. And we're going to look at the example in a moment. But hopefully what you've been able to see here is what I've done is take this sentence and fully develop it, answer all those questions that somebody might ask me about it, and develop it in a way that it clearly helps to answer the question. It helps me to prove my point. And then once you've done that, then you can move on to the example. So examples. The examiners want you to demonstrate that you know how to use examples. The examiners don't want you to demonstrate that you have an unbelievable memory and you can memorize lots and lots and lots of different news stories and facts and figures and stuff like that. All they want you to do is to demonstrate that you know how to use an example. Why? Because that's a very useful skill to have. Imagine you are a doctor or a nurse or an engineer or a lawyer, and you move to a new job in London or Toronto or New York City, and part of your job will be writing to someone or speaking to someone. You should be able to use basic examples to help you prove your point, to help you prove what you were saying. It's a very, very basic skill to have. And if you're not able to do that, then you really, really are going to struggle in the workplace. And you're definitely going to struggle if you're a university student, because you're going to have to do this all the time when you're writing essays and things. The examples must support or prove your main point. So the example must be directly linked to your main point. The purpose of an example is to prove your main point. So what you do is you look at your main point and think, how can I use an example to prove this? Think about when you're arguing with someone and you use an example to help win the argument. And you probably do this all the time. Imagine you're fighting with your sibling.